overtakes the downdraft, and the storm power disappears, and you've got an orphaned anvil. Usually it's only 30 to 60 minutes for an average thunderstorm. Okay, if you were looking in real life, this is what those 3 stages might look like. All right, 3 types of thunderstorms. The first is the single cell, usually very short-lived. You've got an updraft, downdraft. Usually these are like the little pulse storms in the summertime. You might get a little bit of hail, but that's about it. That's what it might look like. That's what it looks like on radar. Okay, multicellular storms. It could be clusters or it could be a line. There's a group of cells at different stages of development. And you can see here's a mature storm with your updraft, downdraft. Here's another cumulus tower going up, and here's another one. They occasionally produce severe weather, and here's one might look like here. The lines are your squall lines, and they might extend over 100 miles in travel, 60, 80, 100 miles per hour. And they almost always produce wind damage. They can produce tornadoes. And here's a bow echo here, and the winds are strongest at the peak of this bow. And you can see little greens going in. These are little inflow jets, little wind streams here. And if you will touch it, we'll put it here. Okay. There's one in action, and this one actually, this was out in the Midwest, and there was actually measured wind speeds of 80 to 100 miles per hour on this one and caused significant damage. Okay. All right, supercells, less than 5% are supercells. Supercells have a rotating updraft, and their downdraft and updraft are very well separated, so it enables them to live longer. You can always expect damage with a supercell. They can produce large, violent tornadoes. And we're going to look at the structure. How does a supercell form? You've got shear in the upper atmosphere, and you can see it starts the air rolling. And so you've got rotation in the upper atmosphere, and you've got an updraft, warm air rising, and it lifts that whole duct of spinning air up, and this forms your rotating updraft, mesocyclone, 1 to 6 miles in diameter up through the center of the storm. Okay, so with supercell, you've got that anvil because warm air rises, hits the troposphere, can't go any further, so it fans out. But sometimes the air is rising at such a speed, it punches through the tropopause and creates this overshooting top. You see an overshooting top, it's a sign of a severe storm. The last 10 minutes or more, you can guess it's a pretty severe storm. Over here, you've got your flanking line of thunderstorms, and the 2 features I want to hone in on are the wall cloud and the shelf cloud. Here's your precipitation back here, your hail would be here, here's your wall cloud with tornado. All right, the other key, by the way, to severe thunderstorm, we've got the overshooting top. You see one, and it's hard to see here, but if it looks kind of crisp and cauliflower-like, it's a severe storm. If it doesn't look real cauliflower-like, soft and mushy, it's probably not severe. Okay, this was a rotating updraft, and this was has been sped up a little bit, but it was captured by a student at NC State off the D.H. Hill Library. If you'll click on it, and you'll begin to see the rotation.
Oh, wow.
And that was the supercell. Okay. All right. The front of the storm is coming towards you. You're here. You see this. This is what you're seeing approach you. What you see there is this. And basically, you've had your updraft in the back. The warm air displaces the cold air. It's coming down and signified by these blue lines. It's more warm air. The warm air rises above it. Condensation occurs, and you get this shelf-like cloud. That's at the front of the storm. When you see a shelf cloud, you can guess the wind speed when it gets over you is going to pick up, and you're going to feel a change in temperature. It's going to feel a lot cooler. These are examples of shelf clouds. This was taken by a spotter in Granville County. pretty ominous looking. It's real hard to see here because it's so bright, but some of these here, particularly that one, almost looks like little fingers coming down, little cloud-like fingers. But it's a shelf that kind of dips down towards you as it's coming towards you. It looks pretty ominous. They can, associated with this are straight line winds, and you'll feel the difference. Can you see the little finger-like projections in that picture? It marks the leading edge of the gust front, rain cooled air. It slopes away from the precipitation. The precipitation area is behind it, so it's sloping away from it, often associated with a squall line. And here's an example of a approaching shelf cloud and the winds associated with it. You may have to click on it. Tornadoes are not associated with shelf clouds, but the winds can be just as damaging.
On a big beach, absolutely. Okay, where are we at? We're going to hit us maybe 60 to 80 mile an hour winds here. Whoa, we're taking it, man. We are taking it. Wow, hurricane force. Hurricane force winds.
Okay. Well, you get the idea. Okay, this one was taken out in the Midwest. But you can see the destructive nature of straight line winds. So it's not always the tornado. In fact, most of our wind events that cause damage are straight line winds in North Carolina. Okay. Okay, wall clouds. They're at the back, the southwest corner of the thunderstorm. If you're going to have a tornado, it will be off the wall cloud, but not all wall clouds produce tornadoes. But basically, the wall cloud is associated with the updraft. So warm air is rising. And usually you've got precipitation occurring over here, and some of that rain-cooled air becomes entwined in that updraft, and it's very moisture-rich in there, and so condensation occurs, so the wall cloud forms and it lowers. The closer the wall cloud gets to the ground, the more likely you are to see a tornado. So if it's 30,000 feet, you're getting closer. 1,000 feet, you're getting very likely to see a tornado. The wall cloud often points to the rain, or you can say it slopes away from it or points to it. The precipitation is over here. And these are some examples of different kinds of wall clouds that you see here. Some of them have some precipitation being wrapped around them depending on the winds. There's one there. Okay.
I've been told that sometimes the problem with the wall cloud is that it hides.
Is that coming toward us?
I'm sorry.
Sometimes the issue with the wall cloud is that it hides the tornado behind it, the funnel clouds that are behind the wall.
Is that like a rain-wrapped tornado, or?
Here's a wall cloud, and the rotation is very broad. Okay, it's really slow and broad. And what you're going to look for is that rotation. It's going to be counterclockwise. Every now and then, rarely, it can be clockwise in the northern hemisphere, but it's usually counterclockwise. And also, you're going to see small scud clouds being sucked up into that updraft. So you're looking for vertical motion, small scud clouds, and then you're looking for the rotation.
That way. Doesn't look like it. Look at the rotation in that cloud.
Okay, I think it's going to be too bright in here. You can see a little bit on the back side. Okay.
See the back one. What an awesome. There go the sirens.
You can see how low hanging that is from that picture. And you got a little, I wish it had been darker in here. You could have seen more of the rotation, but you got an idea by looking at the back side. Okay, so the idea is if you see a wall cloud, you're not going to see a tornado just like that. You've got time to observe it, to check to see if it's rotating. So will my wall cloud produce a tornado? It's not rotating. It's not going to produce one. You can watch it may begin rotating a little bit. Or you've seen rapid vertical motions, scud clouds being sucked up. You may feel the wind being blown into the, from several miles away. You may feel the wind, that updraft. You feel it. And persistence, the longer the wall cloud lasts, the more likely it could be to produce a tornado. Okay, so shelf clouds associated with downdraft, they move away from the precipitation, they're out front. Wall cloud is the updraft, and it always maintains its position with respect to the precipitation. Okay, from the wall cloud you can have the funnel develop, rotating column of air, not yet on the ground. They will be very smooth, laminar-like in appearance. There's another one there. Okay. And then a mature tornado is upright, and they could be stovepipe. They might be V-shaped. Here's one that's wrapped in some rain. Okay. Dissipating tornado, the tornadoes become separating from the warm air it needs for fuel and becomes snake-like, contorted, starts to lean over. It is still in contact with the ground, and if it's in contact with the ground, it still can do considerable damage even though it's dissipating. Okay, most of our tornadoes tend to be EF0s, EF1s, maybe some EF2s. We've had some EF3s. We've had a handful of EF4s, and most of those have occurred at nighttime, but it's only a very small percentage. And those EF4s have been responsible for most of the deaths in North Carolina. There were some around Red Oak, is that the name of Laurinburg area, Maxton area, a number of years ago. Anybody remember those?
Early 80s.
Yeah, there was something happened
Yeah,
back in
mid-80s,
'84.
Mid-80s.
That,
Some of you are too young for this, but there were some.
Mount Olive.
Yes.
That was 1982.
Yeah, and
84, I think.
From my house, there was 11 turkey houses. The next morning, there was one. And every turkey that was in the turkey house that didn't get, you could actually, Highway 70 going to the range exit. For a long time, the woods were white with turkey feathers. And turkeys, literally, probably 300,000 birds killed.
Aw,
Wow.
Turkey Feather Woods.
Okay, there was that, and then there was a tornado that went through Raleigh in '88 that literally wiped the Kmart. Kmart was totally gone. It was only concrete left. That's all there was, and that was a 4. And that one, there were some fatalities associated with that. We've never had a 5, and I hope we never see a 5 because usually there's nothing left. Sometimes even the grass is gone. But this is just a real short clip of EF5s because I want you to see the power of an EF5. And this is from National Geographic.
The cows come home.
I felt badly for the cows.
Yes, hey, they're trying to run away, but those cars are going straight in their wheels, you know?
See the bray?
Mm-hmm.
Those are good sized chunks of debris.
Those real five.
Watch this building.
The house is coming apart. Oh my God!
Who are you?
Did you see that?
Like the Wizard of Oz.
Who are you?
Transformer explosion.
I would love to see that. Okay, so I just want you to get the idea of the power. I find nature's power awesome. You can see we average, depending on the statistics you look at, 31 tornadoes a year. We rank number 17 in terms of annual tornadoes. But here's the bad news. North Carolina is number 1 in the United States for nighttime tornado facilities. That's over the Midwest. Everything. We're number 1. That's not a statistic we should be proud of. And the reason why is people go to bed and they don't have any way of getting alerts. So that's why the National Weather Service, NOAA, everybody promotes NOAA weather radios, something or a county alert, something that's going to wake you up.
Another thing, with the NOAA radios, some parts of Wayne County have poor reception,
Do they?
especially in the eastern part of the county.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes. It used to have a transmitter at Seymour Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's no longer there. So we either, depending on the radio, you know, sometimes Raleigh,
Mm-hmm.
Newport, there's a lot of the eastern part of the county is very poor reception.
Would you send me an email with that information?
Well,
Danny put put another transmitter up on the 88 tower. And that is still weak. If you don't have an outside antenna,
Yeah, if you don't have an out,
You're not getting NOAA
Well,
weather
you know-
radios.
you're not getting no.
Would you send me an email?
Sure, yeah,
and,
you know, I have plenty of antennas, but not everybody has the
Right.
same.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
just send me that information.
have you tried like a beam antenna facing towards the transmitter so it can really in the signal? And I understand that. I'm just thinking out loud here, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, we just, I just poor reception.
There is on that previous slide, that station in Texas for a while, they have the Texas all the time.
That's tornado alley.
And they told us up there what she's like for, if the clouds are blowing this way, and the wind is blowing this way, that's why you like to use
Shear.
the Look at that.
Okay.